How do YouTube? It's time for another Listomania, a list show where we look at things in needlessly nerdy detail, and this is no best of list, so don't worry about that, and neither are we going to assume what you've seen or played. There's absolutely nothing worse than those best horror movies you've never seen style lists. How do they know what we've seen? Stupid videos, don't judge us. Sorry about that, that's a rant no one wants to hear. Anyway, our lists are merely a selection of the things that are available based on the theme of the week. Mostly they come via recommendations. Mostly. Before we get into that business though, please do subscribe and click the out of that notification bell. So, what are we talking about this week? Exploitation. No, nothing political, so don't worry. Exploitation being the style of cinema at the peak of its popularities in the 1970s that found one detail and doubled down in it. That's why we have things like blaxploitation, nunsploitation and ninjas. These style of movies are typically campy, larger than life, very violent, full of nudity and not particularly clever. Grindhouse is a phrase that's also thrown around. We aren't talking about those types of movies yet, that's a bit of foreshadowing. And instead, we're going to talk about some cool exploitation and grindhouse video games. Starting with an example so obvious it gave birth to one of the worst horror movies ever. No over-exaggeration there. So, cheers, Uwe Boll. Right, so a real backbone of the Sega dynasty. House of the Dead dates all the way back to 1996. With 6 main entries and 10 spin-offs. Among the many spin-offs though are The Typing of the Dead and the full fat of House of the Dead Overkill on the Wii, but we'll catch up with that one in a little bit. House of the Dead, if the footage behind me doesn't give it away in any way, is a shoot 'em up in which you play some unlucky sap who has to escape a zombie outbreak at a house. Luckily, you are armed with 2 handguns. It's more than that though, as House of the Dead is also one of the best light gun games ever. Remember those at arcades, where you put a pound in and you shot all the zombies you could ever want? Summer memories. Of all the things that have been consigned to the video game bin marked past it, light gun games are the things we're the saddest about. To the exploitation part of this. There are very, very few genres of movies more ingrained in the gory, oversexed history of exploitation cinema than a zombie. Even the origins in I Walked with a Zombie and White Zombie were a crude kind of blaxploitation, kinda, sorta. Voodoo exploitation? Bit wordy that, I guess. After that though, with everything from Dawn of the Dead and Fulci to the wave upon wave of half-assed meaningless zombie flicks and TV shows, it is there. Present them whether you want, but cause as the saying goes, you can take the boy out of the town, but the boy will always be from the town. One of the more interesting final, or most recent hurrahs, as who knows what the future holds, was House of the Dead Overkill, a game so steeped in the campy, over-the-top gore nonsense of the zombie film, it could have been directed by one of the Italian overlords in the 1970s. Ooh, here's a thought for the future of House of the Dead. How about VR? The 1990s, where R-rated action and horror films marketed themselves towards children and where a small child could walk into their local video game shop with 10 of the finest pound and buy an incredibly violent game, no questions asked. Tucked away at my local game shop was Splatterhouse 2 on the Mega Drive, or Genesis for all you Americans, which is the next item on our list. Directed by Shigeru Yokoyama and put out by Namco back when they put out things more diverse than Tekken and some more Tekken, Splatterhouse was heavily influenced by American slashers and the works of horror writer Lovecraft. In itself, Splatterhouse is just a big homage to violent horror movies of the 1980s. In this violent side-scrolling action platformer, you play as Rick, a parapsychology student brought back by the Terror Mask, which just so happens to make you look exactly like Jason Voorhees, but with his newfound power to hit monsters so hard with baseball bats that they become stains on the wall, Rick heads into the mansion to save his girlfriend Jennifer. although not really obvious from what I described it as there. There's a big Evil Dead influence coursing through the veins of this splatter game too. And therein lies the connection. I mean, I don't really need to explain why Splatterhouse is included in a list of exploitation or grindhouse video games. I mean, the graphics, style and gameplay do speak for themselves. This is 1980s horror, the video game. I'm going to explain a little more anyway, because what the hell started, so I'll finish. Another big part of exploitation cinema is the rip-off, or unofficial sequel, to use the term liberally used by Hong Kong and Italy. I mean, just look at Alien 2, unofficial sequel to Alien, or Master of the Flying Guillotine, or the endless Jaws rip-offs. And this is exactly where Splatterhouse lands. Although I have fond memories of boffing monsters against walls, it is 100% a rip-off, and rip-offs and exploitation are joined at the dirty, dirty hip. Now, let's just ignore the failed reboot in 2012 though, yeah? That was not good. I hinted at ninjas at the top of the video, so here we are. Ninjas. Now, not all martial arts films fit within the exploitation world. A lot of them do, but not all of them. No. If they did ninjas as they did in reality, there'd be dark costume creeps hiding in the bushes, being all sneaky, poisoning people, throwing darts at their enemies, or just being silent, or just some other silent assassin style malarkey. So, naturally, there was sexed up for the big screen. That varies from things on a sliding scale from Franco Nero punching everyone to death, kite ninjas, parrots as best friends, and a Flashdance Evil Dead ripoff. Seriously. If you take one thing away from this video, watch Ninja 3 The Domination and thank me later. Don't at me if it's bad though, because it is bad. Anyway, Ninja Gaiden is the title I decided to plumb for, purely as it's my favourite. Its second generation is, anyway. I mean, I could have gone with Shinobi, whose origins date back as far as Ninja Gaiden's, or Tenchu. I remember Tenchu. This is a game I'd love to see rebooted. Hell, even Thief is plenty ninja-y. Or that indie game with a troll from a few years ago. I forgot what it's called. My point is, ninjas make cool games, so when you're bored with samurai games developer people, let's bring back the ninja, please? Come on. Anyway, in Ninja Gaiden you play as Ryu Hayabusa, a high-ranking ninja practitioner, if I want to say that, whose secret village is destroyed by a bad man when he is away doing a mission. Returning home, he is met with chaos and destruction, and with the help of a childhood friend and increasingly buxom Konoichi, who you play in one usually inferior level, you set out to get revenge. Along the way, you slice up some fools in some notorious, at the time anyway, difficult, dense and genuinely just amazing combat. Naturally, it involves monsters for reasons, but hey, it wouldn't be a nonsensical high combat Japanese game without that, would it? I mean, look at Onimusha, that does exactly the same things, only with the old Resident Evil engine and samurai. It was just how things were done back then. Suda51 isn't exactly known for being a middle-of-the-road games developer. Between the man's romances, trains, and No More Heroes, he outed himself as a really left-field voice in the world of video games, which has increasingly released things that aim towards the broadest possible audience. So he stands out, does Suda51 or Suda Goichi. But yeah, he's an odd duck. And his oddest game was co-written with Mr. Resident Evil himself, Shinji Mikami, and Killer 7. Released initially on the GameCube in 2005 and a little later on the PlayStation 2, this game completely defies categorization. Outside of execution and narrative, it's an unreal shooter in which you shoot a variety of monsters in their weak spots. It's pretty much in awe of light gun games. Add the plot back in though, and you have a game where you play an elderly man in a wheelchair named Harmon Smith, who exhibits multifoliate persona phenomena. This allows him to transform into one of his 7 assassin persona. There's African American Garcian Smith, aggressive Irish American Dan Smith, Japanese American female Kaide Smith, white British albino Kevin Smith, I never noticed that one before. A Puerto Rican coyote smith, young Chinese-American consmith, and Mexican-American luchador Mask the Smith. And the monsters he killed are part of an organisation called Heaven's Smile, which is full of angels, or demonic angels, who are basically mutated living bombs. And this game is also about political relations, so yeah. Killer 7 is an unspeakably odd game that shouldn't work and struggle to find an audience. What of its awkward race and gender politics and its pretty archaic gameplay loops still gets by on the audacity of its ideas, and that's where the exploitation connection comes from. Suda51's work here makes me think of people like Jeff Lieberman or Larry Cohen. So, we're talking cut champions who did everything they'd ever want to outside of the mainstream space. These two men, and many, many more like them, use the tropes of traditional exploitation cinema and use them playing fields to get some really, really weird movies out there. I'm talking alien yogurt weird. This one needs the least explanation. Carsploitation is literally part of the big dirty exploitation family. Exploitation movies, basically, that are deep in the world of driving our cars, that have some sort of murderous psychopath in the seat, or become fully sentient. So let's run through some. There's like Christine, The Car, Maximum Overdrive, The Hearse, Mad Max, Death Proof, Death Race 2000, Road Games, Pit Stop. There's loads of these things. There's also that amazing episode in Ash vs. the Evil Dead Season 2, which, oh man, that was cool. But Death Race 2000 is the most relevant of the movies that are referenced there. When talking about Carmageddon especially, as both feature a colourful cast of murdery eccentrics racing cars while trying to kill everybody around them. Admittedly, Carmageddon turned everything up to 11, got a second amp and did the same later too, but still, they are fundamentally the same thing. One heavily inspired the other. Carmageddon is a fantasy title that fully commits to the sort of 1970s death game movies made by Roger Corman. That's cool. If the studio had the license that understood those sort of reference points and to return the franchise to its PlayStation 1 halcyon days, I'd love to jump right back in. I could probably mention Destruction Derby 2 in this mix. I mean, Carmageddon is the heightened one, DD is the more grounded version. Still silly, but it doesn't feature any clowns driving ice cream vans of death, which is an important distinction, I think, in games. Hang on. Was the Death Clown in Twisted Metal or Carmageddon? I forget. Either way, Twisted Metal and Carmageddon are primo carsploitation violence. I also have vague recollections of Interstate 76 being pretty decent too, but we're talking about a game from 1997, so who knows anymore. Games have become weird, let's be honest. This last entry is the newest, but every last fibre of its existence is old. It's recalling the old style of games like Smash TV. Music is picked freshly from the vast Bandcamp reserves that recall the high synth of the 80s. It's an old soul in a new game, newish. Hotline Miami was an absolute revelation the time it hit, like nothing else out there, and it inspired, obviously, as these things do, leagues of games with both feet planted firmly in the violent exploitation cinema of 1980s New York and LA movie scenes. Now, I'll be honest, the first one I was a fan of. Well, I say fan, in the sense of I got as far as I possibly could in it, enjoyed it while it lasted. The sequel, subtitled Wrong Number, wasn't as rapturously received, but to its defence, creators Jonathan Saunders-Strom and Dennis Whedon, they never planned to make a second game, they just did because of the original's popularity. Anyway, in Hotline Miami, you play a silent character who the fans have dubbed Jacket, who receives a phone call at the beginning of a level, and off you go on a mission to kill a target and all their cronies. The sell is, you kill the enemies in one shot and they do the same to you. The fun comes from creatively and stylishly finding your way through a level. A further string to the game's bow comes from selecting the right animal mask. Each mask gives you like a different status boost. It also gets very, very hard very quickly, so lucky for people with ham fists. The game restarted instantly the second you were done in by probably doing something stupid like pressing the wrong button or going through a door too quick. The late 1970s and 80s scuzzy New York crime movies, which talked about cities being overrun by criminal gangs, the most popular being Michael Winner Winner Chicken Dinner's Death Wish. The original one, not the follow-ups. There are loads of movies like this though, too many to mention. Assault on Precinct 13 is another good one, but yeah, loads of them. And for me, Hotline Miami has the same violent spirit as those movies. Also, there's Polizia Chetti, or Eurocrime. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but that's the pronunciation you're getting. There's also some of that in the game too, only much less political and with way more neon. That's the beauty of the game though for me. So light on world building that it provides the fans with so many words to fill it out and give it some colour other than the obvious stuff on screen. So thanks for watching. This has been part of Listomania. You can see links to other videos in the series on the screen. Do like and subscribe as I mentioned at the top of the video to keep up to date with all the things that we're doing. Next time on Listomania we're probably going to head back to something movie related. We'll find out next time though. I'm not going to announce it too far in advance because plans do change. And that's it for this week. I have been Rob. This has been Listomania, and remember, there's no such thing as being too nerdy.